You're listening to the Yin and Yang Show, a marketing and sales conversation with Lindsay Kelly and Brian Signorelli. Strategic and tactical advice about inbound sales and marketing.
Hi, welcome back to the Yin and Yang Show. Thanks for joining us again this week for our summer how-to series, which is winding down. This may be our last one, Brian Signorelli.
It may be.
It may be. It may be. But yeah, I'm Lindsay Kelly, fresh back from Minnesota. And go ahead. You get to do your best impersonation of an Irish person there. Go ahead.
It depends on if you're from technically I am part Irish. Probably got about a quarter of my lineage being Irish. My grandmother's from Cork.
Oh, really? No, my relatives are all from Cork.
Really?
Wouldn't it be weird if we were really related?
It could be. I mean, through like a few cousins or something like that. Who knows? But yeah, I was in the Emerald Isle for the last 5 days or so. Just got back. So I guess Erin Go Bra or something along those lines. They stay in Ireland. So
the luck of the Irish.
Yeah, the crack of a time.
Very good. Well, yeah. So Brian Sig was visiting I don't know what would you refer to the green hub quarters? I don't know.
It's actually called HubSpot. Dublin and HubSpot. It's called HubSpot. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
nice. That's nice. So the office is over there in Ireland of HubSpot, and I was doing a workshop, which was honestly it was amazing. I had such a great group of folks that I just had. I mean, people are typically pretty good and into it, but these guys were like legitimately amped to understand what the company's been doing with inbound, and I gave them an overview. I even used like my skydiving analogy, which is always a fun one. But I'll have to share that one with you one day, Sig. But
I got to hear that.
Yeah, no, and I recorded that one, so I think I'm going to make a little mini promo out of it, and people can see me screaming my head off skydiving. So, but yeah, it was a great inbound workshop. People couldn't have been nicer. Ownership is amazing, so that's all. It always makes it nice. But today we're going to talk about, and this was kind of something that came up from a young man named Brock who reached out to me on LinkedIn and was asking for tips on prospecting specifically in his territory. And so I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun if we walked through the HubSpot sales tool and show them the prospecting tool, because it's really neat how you can kind of go through and really geo-target in that tool folks who have been to your website, because you call them inbound prospects, right? Because or inbound companies.
Inbound companies, yeah, but inbound prospects, inbound companies, kind of the same.
And that was your number 3 from last week. So it all kind of ties together. Plus, you should have seen the faces of the sales reps when I was showing them this tool this past Tuesday. They were like, when can we get in there? So it was really cool. So I thought you could give a mini walkthrough today. And well, obviously for the folks listening in, you can just listen to what's going on, and we'll be as descriptive as possible. But those of you watching the video will actually be able to see Brian Sig's screen, and he's going to walk us through the tool really quick.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Just make sure I get the right one going here.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. So right now you should be able to see my screen that shows the sales dashboard with like nothing on it right now.
Yes, that's exactly what I see.
Great. So if you are a salesperson or if you just work and you want to use the sales tools for that matter, HubSpot has 2 different sets of tools. There are a suite of marketing tools that our company sells, and there's a set of sales tools the company sells. Specifically, what I'm going to be talking about today are the sales tools. And so the sales tools are on multiple ends of the spectrum. There's a free version of the sales tools, and there's a paid version of the sales tools. We're not going to be talking about the paid version today, but the paid version is $50 per user per month. And then the free tools are what we're going to get into. And specifically, I'm going to get into an application inside the free sales tools called Prospects. So if you don't have a HubSpot account already, just type in HubSpot sales free or create HubSpot sales account. In Google, you'll basically just follow instructions for that. And then to be able to use this tool, and I'll get this, I'll show you this in the following screens. You will need to install a small piece of JavaScript or what's also known as tracking code on your website so that you're able to actually get this data. So I'll get into that in just a minute. But basically, once you create your account and you log in for the first time, you're going to see something that looks like this on my screen. There's not going to be much data there. This is actually just a demo portal that I sometimes take people through. So this will show you things like your deal forecast, if you've actually created deals inside of these tools, and then a bunch of things around activity, sales performance, a bunch of other metrics and dashboards you can put together. But to navigate into the prospects tool, you'll see on the top navigation here, there's one drop down that's called sales tools. And the one we're looking for is called prospects, which is right here. So I'll click on that.
He's clicking. It's loading. I'm giving the play-by-play just to keep people entertained and laughing.
And what I'm going to do here, actually, let's see. I'll stay in this portal. Actually, I was in my own portal a second ago, but let me just make sure that I get this loading up all right. Okay, great. And so what you're looking at here inside the prospects tool is a list of every single company that HubSpot has been able to identify who has visited your company's website. And the way that we do that is by virtue of having that tracking code on your site. And so if you need to send that track or get that tracking code installed, like you won't have any of this data populating here inside of your own portal until you get this tracking code installed. But all you need to do is grab this tracking code where it says view tracking code. This is what I'm talking about, this little script right here. You just want to send that script over to whoever manages your website or whoever manages your hosting and ask them to install that tracking code on your company's website. If that's not enough for them, all you need to search for is how to install, I'm just doing it right now, HubSpot
Tracking
code.
And Google Suggest fills it in for you because obviously others have searched that as well.
Exactly. So you'll see there's an instructions page right here. There's a few different pages. Just grab one of these links and send that right over to whoever manages your website, and they should be able to install that for you. Then within about 24 hours, you'll possibly even sooner than that, but takes a little while for that to kind of kick in and start populating. But once they do that, then you'll start seeing data like this.
Yeah. And I was going to say, for the reps out there listening, like you probably won't be able to just do this on your own. I mean, you could, but I urge you to go to, your marketing department, the leadership, and just say, look, I'd like to give this a try. It's free. And I just want to make sure I get your blessing to put the tracking code on our website. But the way that they're able to actually see that the first result, which it says right here in the screen where it's showing us everybody that's come to the website, by name, is because you have the tracking code installed, and Reliance Industries, when they have a public IP address. And so that's how HubSpot is able to say, hey, this IP address that looks like it belongs to this particular company because, when they filled theirs out, it would be the same with any dealership. Like that's why, we'll go into who's looked at websites sometimes and we can see all these dealers because maybe we sent out a press release about somebody's brand new website and we go to see, it's like, oh, look, every dealer has gone in and looked at your website. Look at all the pages they went to.
Right.
So that's how they're able to identify that. And sometimes it comes up and it literally says like Google or AT&T. That doesn't mean that Google and AT&T are looking at you. That means that somebody didn't set up the company IP address and the service provider for the internet that they're using is AT&T or Comcast or so. Because that was a question that I got on Tuesday. So I figured I would just explain that while you're going.
Absolutely right. Those are kind of false positives, like 99% chance that people from Google or from, AT&T or Comcast or Verizon or what have you, any of those internet service providers, probably
not checking
prospects.
You out.
Yeah, exactly. So ones that, what you should ideally be seeing are the types of businesses that your company, typically works with. And if you don't, if it looks like a serious outlier, it means it probably is. So once you have that tracking code installed, you'd want to come back to this page. And really simply, so to answer, it was, I think you said Brock was the young man's name.
Yes.
That you mentioned. Yeah. So if I were Brock and I said, all right, well, I want to start prospecting inside of my territory. I guess the first question I have for Brock is how do you define your territory?
And I can tell you that.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Yes. So in our world, the office technology world, they're typically zoned by territories, and those are specific zip codes. It just keeps it nice and neat and clean. And this is your territory. This is your territory. This is your territory. So
Perfect. Yeah, so geographic filtering is pretty straightforward. So if I wanted to do that inside the prospects tool inside of HubSpot, I know that those of you listening right now can't see this, but on the left-hand side of the page, there's a bunch of filtering options here. And so I'd click this little link that says add filter. And then what I'd search for would be what's called the postal code as opposed to zip code. And then here, I would just drop in whichever zip code was assigned to me, or if I had multiple zip codes, I would just enter in those multiple zip codes. So I'll enter in a zip code that I'm familiar with here around the Boston area. This is the zip code for the town I grew up in, Situate. And if I type in 02066 and click apply filters, then HubSpot's going to automatically return to me. And it looks like there's probably about at least 50 different results here. It's going to show me all the different companies that are near this zip code who have been to my company's website basically since the tracking code had been installed. So you can see here there's a bunch of companies like Boston College, Boston University,
Wellington Management, which is dear and dear to my heart because I live in the town of Wellington, Florida.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. So you'll start seeing, so these ones up here, like where it says Boston College, BU, Bridgewater State, HubSpot as a company, we do sell to educational institutions and nonprofits, for example. But keep in mind too, that these might actually be students looking for jobs. So be a little bit careful with the universities. If you don't typically sell to universities or colleges or educational institutions, then those might be false positives. Those might be people actually looking for jobs. If that's the case, that's great. It's actually information I would send to whoever manages HR or recruiting if you have people like that at your business. But the other ones like Fidelity or like an Eaton Vance or Rapid7, for example, I know that's a security company in Boston. Those look like pretty good fit types of prospects that we'd want to look at. And so if I'm a sales rep.
Wait, before you go on.
Yep.
The HR was a really great point. So if you have folks from different universities looking at this and you click into the university and you're able to see the history, which Brian will get to in a minute, just so you know, what we typically say is the best practice for setting that up. If you don't already have some kind of an HR management tool or system that you use, just use HubSpot. And so what'll happen is because you can actually have a space for them to upload their resume, they complete a form, and once they click the submit button, HubSpot's able to marry the individual IP address of that email to that person. So now when you go in and look, it'll show you, oh no, this person applied for a job. It'll say right here, they filled out this form. So,
yep. It's a great point. And I actually did that myself when I was a sales manager. I would manage kind of like my recruiting efforts using the HubSpot CRM itself. So I would just treat each candidate as a company, and then I would kind of log all of my interactions back and forth with them inside that tool. So I had a kind of clean record of all the conversations I was having. Made my life a lot easier than using a spreadsheet, for example.
Right.
So just to kind of orient you to what you're looking at on this page. So, when you actually enter in that zip code and you get your results back, if I go back here, you'll see that, with this zip code 02066, there are 32 different results, 32 visits. It's that little gray text on the top left here. And then the pieces of information you're going to get are the name of the entity or the business in the first column, a link to their website in the second column. And then I think what's really interesting are the total number of page views from that institution or from that entity, as well as the number of different website visitors who have been there. So if I'm a sales rep, that's probably one of the first things I'm going to sort on. Unless I know that there's really great fit companies, I'm probably going to sort by page views and see which of these website visitors has been on the website the very most, or I might filter by number of website visitors. So for example, here, again, with like BU, Tufts, Boston College, and Harvard, those have the most page views. That probably, again, means that they're students. But if I scroll down a little bit further into, like Wellington Management, Vertex, Pharmaceuticals, Rapid7, the number of visitors drops off a little bit. That's okay. But the number of page views drops off a little bit too. But again, those are companies that I'm fairly confident in that would probably be interested in working with as a customer in a business relationship, as opposed to maybe the recruiting team, for example.
Right. And so and let's use an example of one of the ones that either has like one visitor with a high number of page views, or so Polly was one that looked good. It was one visitor, but they went to 7 pages.
Mm-hmm.
So just to be able
right
to
here.
see.
Yep,
Yeah.
mortgage.
Right.
Yep,
so
that's a great example that if you do have a single visitor, but with multiple page views, that's a good sign that is probably a somewhat engaged prospect. Whereas if you have, one visitor with 1 page view, it's hard to say. HubSpot's not going to show you here like how much time they spent on the page necessarily. I'll show you which page they went to. If you click this little preview button, for example. So you'll see here, like, how do they actually get to the website? It was direct traffic. If there's any other companies tied to them inside the software, and it'll actually show you a link at the bottom to show all the different website pages that, in this case, Poly Mortgage looked at. And in this case, this is pretty interesting. They're looking at a bunch of different kind of product pages and management pages, for example, on our website. So this is somebody that, if I'm a sales rep, like, I'm probably going to reach out to. Only downside here, now that I'm looking at this, is that the last time this visitor was on our site was 4 years ago. So probably missed this opportunity. Ideally, what you'd want to see here is that someone's been on the site, ideally in the last 24 hours, maybe within the last week, probably not much longer than the past 1 to 3 months, if that. I think once you get outside that time frame, you've more or less lost your opportunity. Doesn't mean you can't, reach out to them. It's just I try to prioritize people who have been on the website more recently than the people who haven't. And that's something else you can filter as well, is this last seen column where you can sort and say, show me people who have been on the website the most recently.
Yep. That's pretty neat. And with the anonymous visitor, again, once they actually submit a form, they go from anonymous to an actual name and email address. And HubSpot, like you see 4 years ago, so if that company comes back or that individual comes back right now and they actually look at the site again, then it'll pick right back up and say, oh, okay, here's this IP address again. Yeah. So
exactly. So it's all going to be connected. You don't have to worry about, living in here, staying in here. Speaking of which, if you do want to set up, so there's two kind of things to think about. So one is if you do find companies that you want to reach out to and start actually working, the way to do that is just by clicking on this little plus sign. So the checkbox means that you've already added them as a company inside of the.
You can't do that unless you have the paid version. I know you're spoiled, but not all of us have that.
Is that you can't actually add?
You can't add them. Nope.
In the free CRM?
Not in the free CRM.
That's interesting. So this little check and plus is a paid feature, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you have the paid version, it's $50 a month.
But it's still, a lot of the folks that we work with aren't going to put this kind of stuff, like in the office technology world, they're using a different CRM, like Soaring or Sherpa. Some have Salesforce, but, and that integrates very easily, but most of the time they're going in and adding them themselves anyway. So this would be a tool for prospecting, and they'd end up having to put the manual data entry into their CRM. Now, if they get the HubSpot platform and they do start collecting data, there's some headway that's being made with a couple of the integrations right now, or with some of the CRMs right now that will allow you to push data into the CRM, but it just won't flow back to HubSpot yet. But.
Interesting. Okay, got it. So even if you're just using this and pulling the data into another tool, which sounds like a nightmare, but if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. I'd say $50 a month's worth it. But again, if you have another tool you're required to use, by all means, keep using that. Don't let me override your management team or whatnot. However, even if you have to do that, there's some notification tools.
Don't go there yet. Wait. I want to test something on the fly that I just thought of. Can you add one more filter? Remove the postal code and add a filter. Can you do has seen any page, like page visit. No, you have to find like, type in web page.
Number of page views.
Number of page views company. So you can't do it by the page that they looked at.
No, that would be
awesome. I'm thinking of like folks in the document management industry who would want to say, like, you know, a lot of folks are probably going to be looking at the copier pages, and, you know,
Right.
you can manually go through and see who's looking at what. And it's a little extra time, but again, it's still insight that these guys don't typically have access to. But it would have
Right.
been really cool to be able to see, you know, well, there's first scene.
So you can do first scene, last scene, but you're not going to be able to filter the specific page. The only way you're going to get that is in our paid marketing tools that will allow you to set up a filter of, like, you know, last
Right.
page scene.
Right. Like we can set up workflows and lists and stuff like that, but okay.
Right. Exactly.
Gotcha.
On the topic
Okay.
of filters, you know, other ways that, you know, I've certainly seen businesses kind of segment and build out territories is, in addition to zip codes, you might also be targeting a specific industry or a specific size of business. Just wanted to point out that those are all different filters. So if you said, hey, like, I only target, you know, this industry, or if you say, you know, we only target businesses between a certain size, there's also a min-max employee figure in here, and we're pulling all that in from public data, so you don't have to do that extra research. It's kind of the whole point of the HubSpot CRM is to take a lot of that kind of manual, nasty type admin work off of the sales rep's plate, and try to free up as much of your time as possible to get back to selling, which is what you're ultimately paid to do, and probably ideally what you enjoy to do if you're in the profession.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I never thought to use that filter. Okay, cool. So let's look at the notifications. So you can also get notifications for reps who want to receive that on a daily, or can you, it has to be daily. It's daily only.
Yeah. So if you want to get notified of when any of the companies that you've been tracking here actually come back to your website, so you can either get you can either get instant notifications. So for example, here at the bottom, revisits, you just turn this on, you get that instant notification. And then the daily notification, that's just a once a day summary that will show you all the companies that are coming back to your website. So you can either set that up for personal notifications, or if you wanted to set up a team notifications, you could subscribe different team members. So say, like, you know, you and a couple other people are working in a specific territory.
Right. I was gonna say, like, so it could be like a team of the territory owner of that would be the copier person, then whoever the document management person is assigned to that area, the managed network services person assigned to that area as well. So, and they will cross multiple territories, so they'll be doing a lot more, the specialists, but. Right.
So what I would do here is, you know, probably set up, you know, I know you'd mentioned this, Lindsay, like, you know, oh, is it like only daily? And I think that's one of those things that I'm not 100% certain on this, but HubSpot is probably taking a stance of, like, I don't want to say we know best, but sort of like, we don't want to give you the ability to do it weekly, for example, or monthly, because that might be interesting for a manager to see or for a business owner to see. But the reality is, for a sales rep, if you don't see that data every single day, you're going to miss the opportunity. And then you're going to be in a situation where, you know, the person you want to talk to was on your website 4 years ago, as opposed to knowing, you know, on a daily basis, you know, who is actually on the website. So, you know, if you're not organized now as a sales rep, I mean, God help you, but, you know, you should be doing some things like every single morning, checking a social feed, checking an RSS feed, checking Google alerts. You might consider adding, you know, getting this daily prospect summary as an email, just to kind of flip through and scroll quickly to see, okay, are any of the companies that I'm tracking, have they come back to our website recently? If they have, which website pages have they viewed? So I know it can be a bit much, but even if you kind of set that notification to go into a centralized inbox that's separate from your main inbox, like an email folder or something along those lines, I definitely kind of build that into your daily routine. Again, assuming that, you know, you need to prospect this way, and you don't have a steady flow of inbound leads coming in that your marketing team's helping you generate with, or just the kind of approach that you want to take, for that matter.
Very good. No, that was awesome. That was an awesome review. And hopefully that's going to be beneficial for the reps out there who are listening. You can stop your screen share now. That was really awesome. Cool. Thank you. So Anybody else have other questions, hit us up on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Brock, hopefully that was helpful for you in your market in the South. And folks, you can find Brian at Inbound Seller on the Twitters. You can find me at LV Kelly with an EY. And until next time, keep the conversation going.
Yeah, keep talking.
You've been listening to the Yin and Yang Show, a marketing and sales conversation with Lindsay Kelly and Brian Signorelli. Join us online at yinandyang.fm.